everyone. Are you prepared to uncover the strategies from the top voices of the country? Welcome back to We Talk Talent Season 5, your go to source for unraveling the future of the workforce. Today, I'm super thrilled to welcome Amarpreet Kaur Ahuja, Country Head HR, AstraZeneca India. Amarpreet leads the HR function for AstraZeneca India, overseeing over 4,500 plus employees in various sectors. With 22 years of HR experience and a postgraduate degree, her expertise spans in employee engagement, talent management, and strategic HR consulting. She has a strong track record in multinational corporations like Barclays Bank, TCS, and is actively involved in driving diversity and inclusion initiatives all across. Welcome, Amarpreet. What an honor to have you today.
Thank you so much, Soumya. It's absolutely a pleasure to be on this platform and have this dialogue with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And for my viewers, we are diving right in for an interaction that's going to surely change the narrative, how we look at the future of the workforce. With that, Amarpreet, I'm going to start off with the first question. And it would be great if you could share with the viewers that how is your industry tackling the changes that workplace has gone through over the couple of years? And if you could give us an overview.
Sure, Soumya. So happy to, give a little bit of perspective, particularly when we start talking about some of these changes, some of these key workforce changes that are happening all around us in the industry. There's a very important element, and you'll hear a lot of people speak about this whole segment of digital transformation, a whole the whole ecosystem which is talking about that transformation. The whole narrative is got digital in its entire space. But I would also want to call out that while the environment around us in the industry has that digital transformation, there's another important element which is coming through, which is the whole human centered work approach. How as an industry, how as a whole ecosystem, while we are engulfed with the digital transformation workspace, there is an important element under the human centered work approach, which whether you talk about people, communities, the whole social responsibility, the whole diversity, different flavors of it are coming through to light. Now, with those kind of, an environment or ecosystem that we talk about, as an industry, whether it's the pharma industry, including AstraZeneca India, how are we actively addressing the whole evolving landscape? It is through a clear focus on one item, which I can, clearly lay my hands on, and that's called human sustainability. Now, what is human sustainability? A term recently being used over, but I must share with you what is the meaning of this first of all. And as an organization, as an industry, how are we really tapping into this whole space of human sustainability? It is actually the extent to which any organization is able to create value for its people, leaving them with a in a greater sense of belonging, a greater sense of well-being, a greater sense of creating a platform of careers for people, greater employability quotient, greater sense of upskilling them from a future skill set standpoint, all of these, and actually above all having a great sense of purpose. So that's the biggest element when we talk about human sustainability. And at an industry level, and I wouldn't just call it pharma industry, I think across the larger ecosystem, that's the way and manner in which this is something which is being looked at or is being addressed. At AstraZeneca, there is a global strategic priority which is by itself termed as people and sustainability, two important segments which enable us to be a great place to work. And by the term itself, it indicates, by the name itself, it indicates that how people are at the center of everything that we do in terms of being our greatest assets, in terms of delivering what we are expected to deliver. And very clearly, the broader ambition itself indicates that when we are enabling our people to thrive in a dynamic, inclusive, high performing culture, which is clearly driven by our values and behaviors, so that we can show people and the larger world what science can do for the people, for the society, for the planet. That's the way to look at the whole space.
Absolutely. I think that's a very radiant vision and mission that you shared for us, Amarpreet. Thank you. That kind of propels me to the next question, and I'm sure it's like the buy decision of this one. And it talks about the employer branding strategy. I think this is one of the very important tool, and I'm sure the audience would love to understand from you. So, if you could shed some light on your employer branding strategy and how it has equitably evolved in the past few years.
Right. Now, that's a very interesting, perspective. And again, when we go by the book, it's largely an employee value proposition where we talk about or the EVP of an organization. But for us at AstraZeneca, the whole element of employer brand, the whole strength behind the brand, is clearly from a space of being connected as an employee, as an individual who looks at AstraZeneca externally or internally, is from the perspective of our bold ambition, is from the perspective of our purpose. And what does that really mean? The bold ambition of AstraZeneca is clearly to be pioneers in science, to lead in specialist disease areas, to transform patient outcomes. When we talk about bringing in newer medicines into the industry and having industry leading growth, and most importantly, all of this has to be looked at by being carbon neutral or for that matter, carbon negative. That's the space we are looking at operating in 25 and by 2030 in terms of the ambition. Now, having said that, if that's the ambition that we're targeting or working towards, the whole brand speaks about it in every element of detail, in every external conversation, in every space wherein the people are, focusing on that entire thing. It's clearly underpinned in every activity, in every transaction, in every decision, and at a higher level, all these elements are speaking about it so that people really realize what does it mean and how dedicated the organization is towards making it a great place to work. So that's the first important anchor point, if you like, which is the bold ambition. Second important aspect, which I spoke to in my previous comment, was about the focus from the EB strategy perspective is on the people, on the society, and the planet. With these three dimensions that we are focusing on, clearly, delivering the greatest of the employee experiences by promoting whether it's the inclusion diversity agenda, fostering growth for people, or the enterprise leadership under your people segment from a society and a planet standpoint, making an impact by in whatever you do, making that impact so that you're positively able to, create the environment and create the impact in the environment and make it carbon negative. So, at a global level, we are looking to become carbon negative by 2030. And that's the kind of impact. There's a carbon zero ambition, which is laid out in order to ensure that we have not just the passion in what we want to do, but actually serve the society and the planet from that perspective as well. So those are some of the broader dimensions, if I can call it, which are standing up for the brand of AstraZeneca.
You very beautifully weaved these critical elements. You've brought in the people, you've brought in the society and the planet. I think that's very, very inspiring to know. So thank you. Thank you so much for that, Amarpreet. It also kind of brings me to another interesting thing that we're talking about. A lot of leaders are speaking for it. Is the criticality of soft skills. I think my viewers would love to know from you that, in your perspective, how do you see the importance of soft skills evolving in the future?
Again, a very if you go by the book, what is soft skills versus what is it really means today in reality. When we talk about it, when we go out there to hire for the best potential talent, when we look at all these aspects, I think I do want to highlight this important element that, and for all the viewers out there, that we really have to break those boundaries of thinking in a very very narrow style, so to speak. When we talk about soft skills, we no longer have to think through that. you know we're talking about effective communication, you're talking about impactful presentations, you're talking about problem solving skills, or you're talking about stakeholder management or your negotiation skills. Now that's like a like supposed to be your bread and butter. It's supposed to be a BAU. It's supposed to be inevitably present, in your ways of working and in your, when you walk in the door into any organization, that package has to be already there. That's like a done deal of sorts. Now, will I, as an organization, invest in building those skills? Answer is a clear no. We have to move our organizations and actually looking at very, very forward looking elements. First and foremost, can I look at hiring for talent or look at the skill set of learning agility? Do I have that open mindset within the whole, human space, that are people open, adaptable, agile, ready to learn and upskill on the go? You know, how do we really look for that kind of talent which can potentially be ready for just about anything? In the whole space which we are operating out of, you are being hit with more and more, whether it's a knowledge article, whether it's a new technology, whether it is anything, you're being hit with so much of information. Our ability to adapt, learn, absorb, operate, strategize, all of that has to happen, just on the go. Now that's where we are moving towards in terms of speed and the fast paced ecosystem that we are operating out of. Coming to a pharma sector, for a moment, while that's on a larger landscape that I was talking about, but when you come to the pharma sector, so to speak, very, very interesting elements of skills that we want our people to be looking at, whether it is the whole patient centricity focus. When we talk about transforming patient outcomes, as I spoke about it on our ambition, it's important that there is a patient centricity mindset. The way you're solutionizing your problems are all supposed to be, catering to the patient centricity and not being product centric. You have to shift the gears and move towards being patient centric. You really have to look for the right kind of patient outcomes which can potentially happen through that entire space. Another example to give you, from a pharma sector, and also something that we are doing in AstraZeneca, we've created or curated very recently, now that we of course are doing things from a perspective of science and being a science led organization. It's so important that we've curated a very, very new offering within the whole ecosystem, which is called Science Ed. What does that do? It is about actually a very innovative science based learning program, being able to teach people and train people about the science of behind our products, so that everybody, including an enabling function like a human resources function, a legal function, a finance function, everybody should be able to speak the language of what the organization's really doing, and to be able to do that in a layman's term, being able to explain to people what is the power of science, how can it really impact a patient, and then it transforms your conversations that you have with your communities of healthcare professionals, and whether it's a scientist or a healthcare professional. So that's a beautiful example of how these skills have to be developed as we move along. So those are some of the pointers which I wanted to just share as an example, because globally, over 85% of our employees feel that there is so much of opportunity which is being provided for personal development, for growth, for the kind of learning modules that people attend on our learning platforms. It's over 1.2 million learning modules have been completed in the last year, in 2023, globally at an enterprise level. So the learning is in the DNA of AstraZeneca.
Absolutely. I think you very beautifully deciphered the categorization of the soft skills, which you said pretty much are non negotiable in nature. And then there are ones that you can definitely build on. And all I could just, recall is that in a way, as a brand and every initiative that you guys are spearheading is is actually reinforcing that pathway to the line of sight of the brand, so that vision and mission comes very organically to everyone. I think that's a beautiful example that you shared. So thank you. Thank you so much for that. And on that note, Amarpreet, I kind of pick up another thread, which is super critical for all the organizations at the moment, and that is the DEI agenda. So, if I could ask you that if you could just share some amazing stories, some milestones from your DEI agenda, and also for my viewers, there's an interesting update that I have. that AstraZeneca India has successfully reduced its female attrition rate by 50%. So decreasing it from 30% in 2021 to 15% in 2023. So that's just like an applaudable milestone. So Amarpreet, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think there's a story behind it, of course. But let me broadly give you a perspective of, when what the broader DEI agenda of AstraZeneca is. And, very clearly and you beautifully, I think, captured it as well, that uh, there is an anchor point, and there is an anchor point from a DEI perspective as well. There is a clear mission of what it means for us at AstraZeneca. It is the mission from an IND's lens, because inclusion for us comes before diversity, and that's why it's called IND. There's a mission to create a very, very inclusive and an equitable environment where people belong, using our diversity as a competitive advantage to push the boundaries of science to deliver life-changing medicines to our patients. That's the broader vision, when we talk about our IND space. The global strategy, again, is, segmented into three strategic focus areas: inclusion topping the chart, which is the number one, piece about creating that culture of inclusion and belongingness, which is our number one priority. Number two is, when we talk about diversity, it's clearly to build and sustain a very, very diverse leadership talent pipeline. That's the second segment. Third is about the overall impact that it leads to. How do we advance the societal change? That's the third clear segment, which is falls a part of our overall strategy. Now in India, if I have to come to look at what is it that we're focusing on, and then I'll come to answer your question as well. We picked and prioritized, because that was a problem statement for us in India, is to really look at prioritizing the different dimensions of diversity. And when I say different dimensions of diversity, you focus on gender, you focus on generations, you focus on cultural elements, you focus on thoughts, all of those experiences that people bring along with them. So there's a very clearly laid out emphasis on what is the kind of diversity that we are bringing in the door, and how is it really helping the organization think differently, think smartly, and be ready for the future. That was that agenda point, that was like a element that we brought out. When we're talking about this, and globally for us at AstraZeneca, we are standing at a 50-50 gender diversity, almost 50-50, and at the senior levels, not just, I'm not talking about the mid level or junior level gender diversity, but at the senior level, right at the board of AstraZeneca, there's a 50 plus, gender diversity that we are talking about. With that kind of a global enterprise ecosystem, it was very important for us to build that whole space, even at an India lens. Now, in India, and I'll come for it in a moment, in the year 2023, we have moved our needle. We were standing at a space of about 12% of gender diversity in a sales organization, in a commercial setup. And I'm taking the example of a commercial organization right now, while many other parts of our organization are standing at a fairly 35-40% diversity. But commercial organization, which was standing a place where there is a lot more challenge within the pharma sector itself, and a space which was standing at about, on an average of 15 to 16. AstraZeneca India was standing at about 12% in the beginning of 2023. In 1 year, one single year, we've moved that needle over to 20%. So today, as I speak, we have crossed the 20% mark in terms of the gender diversity, with 19% for our senior level hires as well. Now, that's a significant needle movement, which clearly tells us that, when we are talking about this whole space, there were different approaches that had to be taken. And approach to buy talent from the external market, approach to build, sustain, and retain the talent which is currently existing, and which led to arresting the attrition problem statement that we're talking about. So there were lots and lots of initiatives, whether it is an initiative of having an open dialogue, creating a speak up culture, having generational diversity addressed through, our global CEO award-winning program, which is called 180-degree reverse mentoring program, building a complete solid ERG or an employee resource group called Network of Women across the country, various such interventions and creating open dialogues, having hiring manager conversations on the bias which is there on hiring women. Lots of interventions had been done over the years from 22, 23, which enabled this whole space. Then, last but definitely not the least, I think creating a safe space for women, because in field force, it is extremely important that you're able to build the policies and build your ecosystem that women feel safe to be able to go out in the field and work in the field for you at odd hours as well. So I think all those are pieces which arrested that attrition and brought it down by 50%. I think we're really proud of that, entire achievement. But at the same time, being also able to build the diversity and bring that level up to a 20% in the last 1 year, moving it to an 8-point needle was quite a significant, movement. So those are, the larger pieces that I can call out in terms of the effort and the interventions that have gone behind, this whole space.
And I think all the questions, all the elements, Amarpreet, that you're sharing are just beautifully reflecting towards, again, the vision and the mission that you have. And kudos to you and the team at AstraZeneca for doing something so amazing. I'm sure the viewers are really applauding on that initiative. So, a big applause from my side as well. This is absolutely
Thank you.
fantastic
Thank you.
to know. And now it kind of brings me to one of the burning trends at the moment, which is about the baby boomers on their way out and the zoomers coming in. So
I
2024 is
know.
going to be marked with this movement. And now that prompts me for the next question. What is your take on the new generation, or the Gen Zs as we call them, entering the workforce, and how do their expectations differ from those of the previous generation? So maybe a couple of trends would be very helpful to know.
Sure. And, before I get to this digital native generation, as I was sharing with you under my previous question, one of the pieces that is actually helping us address this Gen Z problem is a very interesting 180-degree reverse mentoring program that we're running over here, and that clearly is to solve for the generational diversity mindset. What is it that, so for example, I'm a mentee and I have close to 6 different mentors from the organization who come with the Gen Z mindset and are able to give us guidance on variety of facets, whether you call it careers, whether you call it styles of learning, whether you call it what ticks with them and what doesn't, as simple as that. But there are those kind of conversations that we've laid out, and being a mentee, there's so much to learn in the whole space, and just shed your entire years of experience that you would carry, but just be a learner and have that open mindset is giving me personally a lot of very, very interesting perspectives about the Gen Z, so to speak. But coming back to your question particularly, I think there are 2 3 parts that I'd like to call out when we talk about our Gen Zs. Part one, or the segment one, is about the kind of skills they bring to the table. Very, very interestingly, when they bring in skills, it's clearly an age or a generation that comes with digital fluency. Clearly. I mean, they are a class apart. And I think we must applaud them for what they bring in terms of that fluency. A blink of an eye, and they will be able to crack the problem statement when it comes to being digitally fluent, adapting to the newer collaborative tools and technologies. So that's so let's probably bucket them into a space that this is a skill that not only that they possess, but something that can be leveraged on the table, when they bring that skill set. Number two is the mindset that they bring. When we talk about the mindset, they clearly come with an entrepreneurial mindset, a mindset which is about finding the right kind of innovative work environment. They don't really want to be concerned about the policies and the processes and the frameworks that exist, but they come with a very, very smart, a very entrepreneurial mindset that these are things which can be done and delivered at fast pace, at speed, with creative and ways of working. So there's a very sharp mindset, if I can call it. Three is the expectations that you asked about. When we talk about expectations, when they walk in the door, when you have conversations with them, they are very clear about what is an organization standing for in terms of its purpose, what is the organization's sustainability agenda, what is the organization standing in terms of offering me the right kind of employee experience or the flexibility at workplace. I think the kind of questions that we receive today from that generation is at a very different level in comparison to our older generations, if you could call it. So I think these three segments, if we are able to crack this, in terms of the skills that they bring to the table, the mindset that they come with, and the expectations that they have, any leader will be in a position to solve for the larger Gen Z space, if you like, and what kind of opportunities that we can offer, and the relatability to the larger purpose. I think all of that can come together very nicely if we sitting at our tables are able to break those barriers and invite them into our ecosystem through these invitations, I would say.
Thank you for that, Amarpreet. I think they're very forward looking. You've given us the breakup, but you've also given us some suggestions on how to go about it. That's very encouraging. So thank you. Thank you so much once again.
All right.
So this brings us to the end of this chat. Amarpreet, this has been a fabulous conversation. Thank you for bringing in such innovative and invaluable insights with us on the We Talk Talent. I think it has been truly enlightening for me and the viewers. Thank you for taking our time.
Thank you, Soumya. It was absolutely a pleasure. I really hope the viewers do find some interesting nuggets out of this and they're able to pick something.
I'm sure they will. Thank
Thank you.
you. And this concludes yet another thought provoking session on the We Talk Talent. I hope that you fantastic viewers of ours, you found today's conversation with Amarpreet as rewarding as we did. Don't forget, the landscape of talent management is constantly changing and evolving. On that note, be sure to tune in to our next episode as we dive into the new ideas of developing and sustaining the workforce of the future. Until then, stay safe and thank you so much.